Hey guys, my name is Kyle. I'm Youth Live Director in North Texas, and we just wanted to take a moment this afternoon to connect with you. A lot of you came to Together training back in September, and it was a good time, but honestly, a lot of people, it doesn't fit their schedule. They weren't able to bring students. There was a lot of things that were maybe a conflict, and so we thought, man, what would be a good idea is to connect on maybe a quarterly basis and get some other voices to come in and speak to the process of serving schools, helping teachers, building your students to be missionaries on their campus, to win their friends to Christ. And so we just wanted to take some time, an hour out of your day here, 45 minutes, to really connect with you. You're going to find a little section over there. It's a chat section to where you can ask questions. We're going to keep on that, and we're going to ask our presenters who are talking today to answer those questions. So your feedback's important. Your questions are important. So you say, Kyle, who's with you today? Today I got some good friends of mine. One of them is going to be the first presenter. His name is Ben Russell. He is Youth Alive missionary to Alabama, and really been doing Youth Alive about the same amount of time I have been. And Ben has become a really, really good friend of mine. We bounce ideas off each other, call each other on a very regular basis, and I can just say this with all honesty and sincerity. Ben has a heart for the campus and is doing a phenomenal job in Alabama. And he's someone I'm very, very impressed with and love to see what's going on in his world. So I wanted to open up to Ben. Ben, I want you to take just a few moments to tell us what's going on in Alabama, give us some ideas, and the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate the opportunity to be on. I'm on my phone. The Wi-Fi where I'm at dropped out, so I just want to commend you for having this, and thank you for having me on, and just really appreciate all you guys jumping on. You know, right now in Alabama, we really are seeing students that are and leaders truly passionate about their campus, like we haven't seen in a while. We're coming off a week that we had back in September called Rush Week. It was right when school kind of started back, kind of getting kicked right back in. Had a rush week where we were encouraging leaders to have conversations with their local schools, literally to rush to schools for a solid week where they had different things every single day that they would bring to the table. You know, we're asking people to adopt a school that week. We're asking people to preach on Wednesday night about being a campus missionary. Just everything that week was wrapped around reaching the school. We asked guys to drive around schools and pray over them. Anything campus related, we asked them to do that week. So that's kind of what's been happening in Alabama in the last couple months. We had an intentional week where a lot of folks did it, and then some guys, if that didn't fit their schedule, they're kind of doing it now, or they may do it later in the semester. So our Rush Week, we called it Our Schools Matter Rush Week, and so that's something fresh right here in Alabama we've been doing that ties into the national office campaign of Our Schools Matter. You know, when Kyle mentioned about coming on today, one of the first things I thought about, and he really opened the door for me to share with kind of from my heart, which I appreciate. And one thing that really popped in my spirit really quick, and I'm not sure who all is on and what your background is as far as the campus goes, but I had a conversation with a youth pastor not too long ago. And this youth pastor had a hard time connecting to the campus. So finally, over a conversation, I was trying to encourage him to open up to me. His idea of evangelism was completely wrapped around his youth service, his church, and that's fine. He never would get on campus in any form or fashion. So I finally encouraged him to open up the door to me on that. And he finally admitted to me, he said, you know, when I was in high school, I had really bad experience myself on the campus. And he said, to be honest with you, to be blunt, I was bullied a lot when I was in high school. And every time that I go back, it's a reminder of that to me. I get very intimidated. I get very nervous. And since that conversation, I've had several youth pastors really open up, just complete honesty, say, I'm really scared to get on campus. I'm the awkward old guy that's walking around. I had bad experience, you know, in school. And I tell guys, and they ask me, like, Ben, do you get nervous when you're at a school campus? You're doing 7 project or a school assembly. Do you get nervous at all? I'm like, absolutely, I get a little nervous. I'm in their territory. I'm in their world. But we've got to be in their world. You know, we've got to find ways to connect to their world. And I don't know who's on this call that if it's just for one person, I think it's worth sharing that, you know, we can't let our past dictate what happens to us right now. That's a scar in our life that happened. But there's a lot of souls at stake from us to get past that. You know, we can help others through that same process. But I'm convinced that we see a lot of youth pastors that really struggle to get on the campus, and I think we can use it as an excuse sometimes. Well, the doors are shut for us to get on campus, and that can be somewhat of an excuse when in reality they're the ones that struggle internally. So I'd like to encourage anybody that's on right now, if that was a problem for you, or if you wasn't bullied, maybe you didn't have a bad experience at a school campus, but you're still somewhat intimidated, and you're looking for excuses to tell guys like Kyle, I can't get on campus, man, the door's closed. I don't know that I always buy that. There's always a way to connect to the campus. It might not be a school lunch. That door could be closed, but what other doors are open for us? We had a guy recently that we did 7 project there this year, Kyle. I know I've talked with you about it. It was a school we've been praying over for 4 years. This youth pastor for 4 years has tried to get some type of connection on campus. And literally those doors were just closed. They had some bad experiences with guys in the past, youth pastors that didn't know how to be professional, if you will, on the school campus, and the principal just closed that door. And so finally this youth pastor goes to the principal and says, listen, our church would like to feed your football team this coming school year. After he met with the principal and the head football coach, they worked that out. It was our home church here in Montgomery. We catered a nice barbecue restaurant into their field house, and we served them on game day a meal. And that led into the head coach asking the youth pastor to do a devotion each game, which led to him asking him to be the football chaplain each game. This is a 4-year journey. He just had to find what was that door. It ended up being a feeding the football team, which I know is not a new, brilliant idea, but it was just a door that was open. And so now you fast forward that story, we've done 7 projects there now, to a school that wouldn't even let youth pastors have lunch, wouldn't even let guys on campus. And now we've done 7 projects there, actually not once but twice. And so I like to encourage us, get past the excuses, get past the insecurities, get past the crutch of, hey, the doors are closed. Well, what other door might be open? That's my encouragement to you. Stop looking at the general doors you're looking at. Man, all of us in youth ministry, we can all go to a football game. We can all go to a basketball game. We can all go to a baseball game. There are ways for us to be present on campus, no matter how big of the city we live in or how small it is, how big the school is, how small the school is. There are ways in. And my encouragement would be to get past the insecurities, get past the struggles, and really and truly, make that your mission. We tell kids all the time, we tell them in youth ministry, that's your mission field. That's our mission field as well. We've got to find ways to be influencers there. And so, I just want to take a few minutes and share that. And Kyle, I don't know if you want to comment on that or if anybody had a question on that, but that's that kind of the vein that I want to flow in is not only get over your past, but not to make excuses and not to just let one closed door be the ultimate door that you've tried to go through. So, Kyle, anything on that?
Yeah, Ben. One of the questions that I think can stem from that is a lot of guys use budget as an excuse.
Yeah.
And they say, man, I can't reach my school. I can't do a 7 project. We hear that a lot because I just don't have money. I don't have a budget. My pastor doesn't give me this monthly allowance,
Right.
if you will. But what are you seeing in Alabama guys are doing that don't have a budget, but they're still reaching the campus?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been almost 7 years since I youth pastored, but when I was a youth pastor, my budget was zero just about every single month. So I can relate to those people, and I have a heart for those people, and I know what that's like. I will say we had a guy recently, and I know, again, this is not anything necessarily brand new, but just struggling to try to be influenced on the campus, doesn't have the money to feed a football team, because you're looking at $200 or $300 expense when you do that. This group decided they were going to ask the administration and the coaches, could we just help clean up the football field after the game is over with? And they said, yeah, usually the band does that, but hey, if you and your youth ministry want to help clean up the football field and the stands and all that, we'll let you do that. And they started doing that, and it was a great connection to the campus. The youth pastor was able to get identity there, because at the end of the day, there's teachers seeing a youth pastor with his students walking around with trash bags, picking up a bunch of wrappers, picking up water bottles and nacho trays and everything else, helping the band pick up. That's something I heard about even recently, that just was able for those guys to have a connection, have influence, free, cost them nothing. It cost them their time, late on a Friday night, but it led to other open doors. So that's one thing I know that's free. You know, you could do it during basketball season. You could do it during baseball season. Obviously, there's a lot of connections for me in my past via sports, and so that's a lot of the things that things and ideas that kind of pop through my head are kind of sports related, because those are easy inroads to schools. And the guy that did this, he's not athletic. He's not into sports. He didn't play ball. That's just an idea that he had. He's probably the most anti-sports person, but you don't have to be an athlete to find avenues within sports or the school, because at the end of the day, it's a brilliant move in. I also know, Kyle, another story. God doesn't have a lot of money in his youth ministry, looking for open doors. His wife actually ended up being, this is a pretty big high school, ended up being the PTA president. And so talking about influence, this guy's wife became the president of the PTA club there. Great influence. Helped us get in the door for 7 Project. Didn't cost him anything but her time. And I'm telling you, man, the principal really, she found herself in all kind of avenues of ministry there at the school. The youth ministry did. And so those are 2 things right there that I've heard about even the last couple of semesters, Kyle, of people that it cost them absolutely nothing but their time to get involved on campus and have a connection and be an influencer there at the campus.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thanks, Ben. In that same kind of thinking, the fear, the time, we got a lot of guys in youth ministry today that are part-time. They're volunteer. They don't have, the church doesn't have the budget to pay for a full-time youth worker. How are you seeing, what are you seeing in Alabama where guys they don't have time, but they're still making a difference on the campus? Is that even possible today?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it's got to be a lot more strategic, of course. And, I think it's finding those times that does work for you. What time does work? Is it a Friday night? Is it, when you're not working? And we have a large percentage of youth pastors actually here in Alabama that are part-time as well. So that's something we see. I think it's a matter of finding your schedule. What fits in your schedule to connect to the campus? What is the open door, and what is the time that benefits you? I remember when I was a youth pastor, I had an opportunity, and this was when I was full-time, but some guys before me, some other churches actually did it who were part-time, but they actually proctored a spelling bee at a junior high school. And, man, again, open door, fit your schedule. The guy that proctored it before me was a part-time youth pastor who worked another job. It just fit his schedule. It was something he was able to do. So, again, it's finding the open door, and it's also about what fits your schedule, and only you know that. Everything's contextualized when you come to being part-time. But we have a lot of those in Alabama. But we also see a lot of guys that are part-time. They're just – you say part-time. Part-time actually indicates pay. These guys are part-time, really doing full-time work, getting paid zilch. And I know you guys probably have a lot like that as well, probably some on this call right now. So we call them part-timers, but, they're not even getting part-time pay, which makes my heart even go out more for. I'm thankful for people that passionate about student ministry, that they're willing to do it for absolutely nothing. But I think it's contextualized within, what's going on for you, and that's your schedule, and only you know that. So.
Yeah, that's good, Ben. Quick question for you, a little different. You and I work in communities a lot, and we see the value in a network that can help you serve and win the schools more than you can do yourself. People have been there for a long time. People have established relationships. And when you get involved in other youth pastors in the city, you get involved in other organizations like FCA, Champions for Christ, all those type things. What would you speak to some of the youth pastors out there about the value of networking?
Man, you know what? The value of networking. If I could go back and be a youth pastor again, I would put a lot more value on it than I did. I'm one of those that wish I could go back and change that. The value of networking is, and it's kind of cliche-ish, and I make fun of church planners a lot because they say this all the time, that we're better together, but it's true. It's a cliche. We all hear it, but really and truly, we're so much better when we can and just like you mentioned earlier, Kyle, you and I talk regularly. We're great friends. We talk, we share ideas off of one another. We challenge one another. One thing I'm sorry, I'm driving, guys, so bear with me, making sure I'm not wrecking here. One thing I appreciate about you, Kyle, and our friendship in ministry is that you challenge me The iron sharpens iron. And I think if we're not careful in youth ministry, we won't network with other people. And we need that. We need that iron sharpen iron. You know, we need guys that are challenge us not to get complacent. We need guys that'll be there for us, pray with us. You and I, we've shared things with one another. Families go through the friendship. So I would think the value of networking goes probably beyond what we realize until we have it. You know, when we start networking, then we realize how important it is. But anybody out there who's not really networking with other people for whatever reason, I would really encourage them. You need it. You have to have it. It's good for your personal life. It's good for your professional life. And it will encourage you in everything that you do. And you need guys that will challenge you. You need guys that will give you pushback on things. And that's the power of that. One struggle I had as a youth pastor, I was known as the Assemblies of God guy, which everybody thought was crazy, right? You go to the Assembly of God church, you're the crazy church that claps their hands during music and jumps around and all that stuff. So it kind of was a struggle for me because I think guys thought that I was going to be crazy. Again, if I could go back and change all that, I'd have more effort to show them. But at the time, I'm a young youth pastor. I didn't care. I'm like, I don't need anybody else. I can do this without them. And the truth is that's very, very far from the truth. We are designed to have to need help, and so I would encourage anybody there, man, seek out a few youth pastors, whether it's in your circle of Assemblies of God or outside that circle. Man, take them to lunch, take them to coffee. Sometimes we have to be the aggressor. I think sometimes in networking, everybody's looking for an aggressor, and nobody becomes the aggressor. I would like to challenge guys on this call to be the aggressor within networking. You need to be the aggressor. We need it. You got to have it. So
that's good, Ben. I like that. I don't ever wait for anyone to call me. You know, I like that aggressor spirit where you say, I'm going to call them. I'm going to go to them. I'm going to invite them to lunch. I don't wait for other people to take action. I take action. I like that.
Absolutely.
Now, most of us, and you've been around the block a little bit, you know that your greatest networking guys are the guys that have longevity. They've been in their city, they've been in their church for a considerable amount of time. What would you say to our guys out there about reaching the schools, about being a great youth pastor, right? On the benefit of being somewhere for a long time.
So you're asking me the benefit of longevity, is that right? You cut out just a little bit on me. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm not sure what the latest stat is in youth ministry as far as how long guys are there. I know at one time when you and I were a little younger, probably it was about 6 months or so. Man, I just think the longer you do something, but again, it kind of goes hand in hand in the conversation. The longer you do something, in my mind, when you're networking the right way and you're being challenged and you don't get stagnant, I think there's so much power in longevity because you find a rhythm, you find a groove, and you become more and more of an influencer the longer that you're at some place. It takes 2 years minimum just to get your feet wet, in my mind. The problem is, Kyle, I really believe this with all my heart. A lot of guys leave youth ministry so fast, or a youth group to another one so fast. We go through cycles in youth ministry, and you know that. About every 2 to 3 years, we go through this cycle. And in the cycle, it might be that our numbers drop, or our discipleship isn't what it needs to be, or we're losing influence, or we're getting bored, or whatever. I was at a youth pastor for 6 years, the same church. My third year was my toughest year. Everything that could go wrong did for me, everything. I wanted to leave really bad, and I almost did leave. But I stayed through it, and I'm glad that I did it because the backside, those back couple of years were the greatest years that we had. And I think guys aren't willing to go through the cycle because we all have this honeymoon stage, right, our first year, where things are great. We're the new guy. We may lose a few kids that like the old youth pastor better, but at the end of the day, we're the new guy. We come in with this ton of energy. Everybody likes us. Well, after a couple of years, that may wear off a little bit, and that's kind of where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. And I think the reason why we're not seeing the longevity is because of that. But I would encourage guys, make it through that. You know, be a leader that's not intimidated. Again, be the aggressor. Don't be the person that's intimidated. When things start going south, don't tuck your tail and run. Work harder. I believe in hard work. Kyle, you know that. I know you do. I know a lot of guys on this call do. Be a hard worker. You know, when things start going south for me, in ministry especially, I want to be that much more aggressive. I want to evaluate myself. I don't want to tuck tail and run and do something else. And even our seasons of Youth Alive, we've seen seasons of we have more influence than others and more opportunity some seasons than others. I want to just be the aggressor. I want to work hard. And I think to be in a place a long time, you have to be the aggressor, and you got to have people speaking into your life. Again, it goes back to the networking thing. You got to have the right people speaking into your life. Make it through those tough seasons. I have Johnny Wilson pops in my mind. He's a youth pastor in he's a Faith Assembly of God in Orlando, Florida. He's been there at least 15 years, probably longer. An incredible leader that can now say he's been through some tough seasons. But how many students has he impacted in the Orlando area? A lot of guys in this car have probably heard of Johnny Wilson, and I know he's done some camps for us in Alabama. He may have done it for you guys as well. But just an incredible, incredible leader. Man, you're somewhere for that long. You've done something right. So, I'm big on longevity, man. I believe in it. So
awesome. Hey Ben, one last question. What's the biggest thing that ticks you off in Alabama as far as working with schools and maybe youth pastors?
Yeah.
You're a passionate dude. What gets you mad and angry, man?
You know what? I've already kind of touched on it some, and it probably wasn't a coincidence at all. It's the excuses. It really is. It's the excuse of not reaching the campus. I'm too busy, and I understand everything's contextualized. There are pastors out there that just want you in the office, and it is what it is. You have to be obedient to your pastor. That's your boss. That's your shepherd. But that's not always the case. That's one thing that makes me upset, are guys that just find excuses. Man, I'm the kind of person, I'm going to find a way in. I'm going to do it one way or the other. I'm going to be an influencer one way or the other. And that's what aggravates me, because there's so much opportunity, especially right now. And tons of opportunity. I'm not sure. You scroll Facebook right now, there's at least 4 or 5 videos that are viral of fighting teachers and teachers and students fighting each other. I can think of at least 4 right now that I've seen the last few days. One's in Maine. So, these viral videos of teachers and students literally fist fighting across the nation. And my thought is, what an incredible opportunity for us as youth leaders to rise to the occasion. Get off our excuse. Get off our schedule. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. No, man, find a way in and get involved. If your pastor's okay with you being involved and being the aggressor, then do it. I coached basketball for 4 seasons as a youth pastor, high school guys, not because I got paid. I do love the game of basketball. It was an open door. My pastor was fine with it. It took up some time. It did. But I was an influencer. So to answer your question, Kyle, it's the excuse. It's the what's the word? It's that spirit of just, being passive. That's what aggravates me, is that passive spirit. It goes back and you said it a while ago, it's the aggressor. I love being the aggressor. And so I like to see the guys that are really aggressive and just want to be a strong leader, whatever they got to do to reach the campus.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Ben, for your time. Are you able to hang with us for a little bit? I know you're driving, to answer some questions maybe at the end as well.
I might can do that. I just pulled up. I know I mentioned to you we're having a youth workers conference, and so I was able to take a break there from it. I'll hang on with you as long as I can, for sure.
Okay. Thanks again, Ben. I know you guys are doing great things in Alabama.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, we want to shift gears and give one of our youth pastors here in North Texas a chance to kind of talk and speak. A lot of you guys know Anthony Grizzard. He's up in Denton. We just did a 7 project, and both of us are wearing the same shirt today, our 7 Project Denton shirt. 2 weeks ago, Anthony did a great job with that, and I just thought it'd be really cool if Anthony came on with us today and kind of spoke about Campus Club, 7 Project, and how his youth ministry has threaded Youth Alive through really every fiber of it. So, Anthony, if you don't mind taking a few moments and talking to us, man.
What's really cool is, or may not be cool or not, but what I've noticed is that Youth Alive kind of didn't become as interwoven as it is now until probably about like 2 years ago. I mean, would you say, Kyle, that's whenever I kind of started bringing you in and bringing you to my students who were really passionate about, getting a campus club started, in their schools. And so it's honestly been kind of the past 2 years where I've seen a huge step up in our students and in their desire to see their campuses changed by God. And so like many youth pastors, I myself, man, I was nervous. I was intimidated. I had no idea how to get on campus in my area, especially in Denton. I remember I went to a couple high schools. I went to one of the high schools and it was cool. I went to a lunch and did that whole thing. But in all honesty, for me, the whole lunch thing isn't for me. You know, I can do it. You know, I can hang out, but it just seems a little bit awkward. And my kids, honestly, they like me being there, but to them, I think it also feels kind of awkward for them as well. And even one of the main schools where most of my kids go to, one of the main high schools, they're actually I actually tried to go there and just say, hey, I'm a youth pastor in the area. I just want to come and spend some lunch with my students, and they were like, nope, you can't do that. And that was like kind of a closed door. And so I got a little bit discouraged at first, but then had a kind of come to Jesus talk with my pastor, who has done youth ministry for a really really long time before he became a lead pastor here in Denton, and he kind of made it a requirement that I get on the campus. It wasn't so much a suggestion; it was very much like, hey, look, man, if you want to continue being a youth pastor, you need to be on the campuses. And I was like, you got it, let's do this. And so I endeavored to try to get onto the campuses in my area. But one thing I really noticed is that, man, I mean, I'm pretty young, and you know, talking to students isn't super hard, but it's still intimidating to walk onto a high school campus, man. I walk into a high school campus, and I've been confused for a high schooler, and it's just like that's a big blow to the to the gut right there, being confused for a high schooler, and it's just like, man, what am I gonna do? So I really kind of looked at it, and I was like, man, you know, I'm gonna go to my junior high. I know junior high is kind of like they're your annoying kids, they're your crazy kids during the youth service. They're the ones that always want to play the disgusting games. But man, they're awesome. Junior hires are so cool, and I tell you what, there's a significant difference in me walking on the campus at a high school than there is to walking on campus at a junior high. You walk on a campus at a junior high, and man, you are the superhero. You are the guy everyone's looking at like, hey, who's this guy? Who's this guy? He's really cool, man. I want to know about what is he doing on campus. And so I kind of started going to the junior high, and the way I got in there to start with is that I was actually on a couple of my students' emergency contact, and so I got in that way. But then after that, I kind of realized, I was like, you know what, I want to get in a different way. I don't want to kind of try to beat the system in that way. So I got on the district website, filled out the application, and just became a volunteer. And so after I became a volunteer, where they do the background check and all of that stuff, they have my background check on file, all of my info, so they alleviate that fear of who is that guy, who is this person that's walking on campus. And so after that, I got on campus, and I kind of went to a couple lunches here and there and stuff like that. But then I decided to just go to the principal. And I went to the principal, and I just looked her in the eyes, and I was just like, hey, honestly, I don't want to be on campus with the purpose to just simply spread my church's name around. I'm not trying to preach or anything like that. I just want to know how I can serve you guys, how I can serve you as a campus and as a community. And she looked at me, and she was just right off, just immediately just said it, we need more mentors. So I was like, okay, all right, well, let's do it. How can I help with that? And she directed me to one of the counselors, who immediately connected me with two students who I began to mentor for that entire year. And as a mentor, it required me being there every single week. And that, I think, really is what helped me develop a relationship with this particular junior high campus, is the fact that the administration, the students, and the teachers all saw me every single week on that campus mentoring these students. And so it kind of got to a point where I was a common face on campus. And so it wasn't so much like, who is that guy? It was, hey, it's that guy again. And anyway, and then after that, one of our students, one of the students in my student ministry, really developed a burden for her campus and really wanted to start a campus club, a Youth Alive club on campus. And so we took the steps necessary to get that started. We finally got it started. We got it rolling. And we started off like any campus club kind of would. It started off a little bit small. You know, we had maybe like 10 kids, and I mean that's probably not small for a lot of campus clubs, to be honest. That might still be kind of high, but you know, we had about 10 kids there, and it was awesome. And one thing I would recommend, and I know this isn't exactly what you asked me, Kyle, one thing I would recommend with doing campus clubs is I've been to a few in our area, and man, some of them suck. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be, you know, like say that like ours is great or anything like that, but I've noticed a lot of campus clubs kind of follow this model of, you bring donuts and juice and then you sit them down and just preach at them for 20 minutes. And that's, I've noticed that that's probably not the best model. I mean, what we do in our junior high, and it's been effective, and you might be able to find something that works for you guys, but what's been effective for us is honestly bringing them in, and we do the donuts, we do the fun, we have music playing in the background, they sit down, talk to their friends, and we do ours in the morning, and so it's before the busyness of the day has started. They're still kind of sleepy, so we get them woken up and everything, and then we do a quick game that lasts maybe like 5 minutes, and for a prize, we give away a Little Debbie snack, whether it be oatmeal cream pies, a nutty butter bars or whatever it may be, something super cheap that's not going to cost you a whole bunch of money. We give that away as a prize because they walk around giving those out or eating those throughout the day. And then after that, we actually started doing this. I think towards the end of last semester with our campus club, we started doing one song. And luckily for us, the sponsor of the campus club, the teacher whose classroom we use, he actually plays guitar and does worship. And so thankfully for us, he brings us a guitar every single week and he does a song or two for us. And then after that, boom, it's about 5, maybe 10 minutes of a really energetic, pumped up, awesome message. And we've given kids an opportunity to accept Jesus there. A lot of times we kind of just pray it out and we let them go. We give them something to think about either way, but despite how long it is, we give them something to think about as they leave and get started with their day, and it's been really, really effective. And so we've been doing that for some time, and before we actually brought Youth Alive to this campus, we were averaging, I would say, probably around like 35 to 40 kids normally on a Thursday morning, and it was awesome. We were booking it. The classroom we were currently in got too small, and we had to go to a bigger one. And then eventually we ended up bringing in Kyle because we were just like, man, we have notoriety with this school. The school trusts us. They believe in what we are doing, and so we brought Kyle in, and we asked Kyle to talk to one of the counselors and talk to the principal, and we brought him in, and we were just like, hey, this is what we're wanting to do. This is what 7 Project is, and this is what we're wanting to do. And they were like, well, we have to have some kind of assembly where we talk about drugs, where we talk about bullying, where we talk about this. And we're like, perfect, we got the solution. And guess what? We'll pay for it. And that was a huge, huge thing for this campus, and they absolutely loved the fact that we would bring these guys in and that we would even pay for them to be here. And so that was awesome. And so after we did all that and everything, man, it has been huge. It has been so much fun getting to see kind of the impact of the 7 Project afterwards. And man, I just want to encourage you guys to be encouraged and to be willing to figure it out. Just like Ben said, to find an avenue. Don't let things stop you from getting on campus. Find a way to get on campus. For me, it was becoming a mentor. For other people, it may be, going and becoming a football chaplain. I don't know what that may be. But also, I want to encourage you guys to, man, be there on campus as much as you can. Once you find that avenue, once you find an opening, kind of exploit it, but do so with grace and with wisdom. A lot of times I think you can be either the extreme. You can see an opening and not take advantage of it, and therefore never be able to have an impact on the campus, or you can see an opening and bust right through it and then become that youth pastor that they never want to come back to their campus again. And so be wise and be discerning in you getting on campus. Make sure you're doing so in a way that's tempered with a servant's heart. Be willing to serve, whether that be after lunch, going and cleaning up the cafeteria. I've done that before. Whether it be after their field day or what we call Titan Day, man, going out there and just cleaning up and then telling your Youth Alive or your campus club for kids to get out there and clean up and serve. And just as Ben said, maybe cleaning up after a football game, whatever that may be. But find some kind of way or some kind of avenue to get in there, and just be wise when you're on campus. Befriend as many faculty and staff as you can. That is a huge thing. If you can befriend any of those guys, whether it be bringing them donuts, whatever it may be, get some friends, get some people on your side that are on campus, that are on the staff and on the faculty, so that way you can continue to do what God has called you to do as a youth pastor on the campuses. And so I think that's pretty much sums up what I've got as far as the campus portion, and so that's pretty much all I got right now. Kyle, what you got for me?
Yeah, Anthony, let's kind of go back and forth here with some questions. You talk a lot about students and students being involved. How do you recruit those students that do a campus club, that get involved in these outreaches and activities? Is it something where you let them come to you first, or do you kind of spot students and maybe, like we talked about earlier, aggressively go and pursue them and ask them, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to be involved in this campus club? All that kind of stuff. What's your take on that on involving students?
Yeah, once again, I think that is one of those things where you have to be wise and discerning again. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you're going to have those students who are go-getters and who are going to come to you. And then you're going to have those students who won't do that at all. So I kind of would say I do a little bit of both. Um, for the campus club that's doing phenomenally well right now, and I'm going to brag a little bit because I'm excited. I mean, after the 7 project, we had 50 kids show up, and then this past week, right after the 7, so we had the 7 project on a Wednesday, then we meet that Thursday. We had 50 kids, or more than 50. We had about 55 kids show up to the Youth Alive Club then. And then the week after that, it jumped back down to probably about 42 to 43. And then this week, we had about 48 to 50 kids again, and that was this morning, and so it was a huge success. I loved it. But to kind of hit on what you're talking about, it's very much, I look around, and as youth pastors, I've noticed I have to take time to step back. You know, I can't always be engaged as far as like playing basketball and doing all the crazy stuff and, you know, talking to these specific students. Sometimes you just got to step back and you got to watch. And in doing so, you kind of watch and you can kind of see what students are your influencers. It's not always, and the influence, what I mean by influence is not who's the most popular kid. What I'm talking about influence are the ones who understand the calling on their life and want to do something about it. The ones who engage in service, the ones who are there, who are taking notes, who are looking, who are engaging you with eye contact, the ones in worship who aren't talking and playing around, the ones who are actually getting it, the ones who actually understand what this is about and understand the importance of getting their friends in church and ministering to their friends and helping their friends find and fall in love with Jesus. It's stepping back and looking and identifying those kids. And man, if you identify them and they don't come to you first, man, go after them. Go after them in a way that you know their kid. If it's taking them to Sonic and, you know, getting them a Route 44 drink at happy hour and just saying, hey, I wanted to hang out with you a little bit, and then just kind of bringing up, so what do you think about your campus or the spiritual well-being of your campus, and talking them through that, whatever that may be. Go after them. You know, you can only do so much on the campus until you need an actual student to really change their lives. I mean, you're not going to be able to go on there and actually start, you know, just preaching. You're not going to be able to stand on the tables and you know, like Kyle says, and throw hot pockets everywhere and everything and do all that cool stuff. What you're going to need is you're going to need a student who has a heart and a burden for that campus, and what you got to do is you got to come alongside them and empower the heck out of them. Make them feel like $1,000,000. Make them feel like they can conquer the world, and come alongside them and through the good times and through the bad times when the campus club is not doing well, and be there for them and be there with them whenever it's getting tough. But in both of those situations, I've had students come to me, but I've also identified students myself, and in both those situations, I make sure I do what I can to empower them and to make them feel like $1,000,000. And that's kind of my goal and my desire in that is I want them to understand that the commitment and their desire to get onto their campus is not something small. It's not something to be taken lightly. It is a big deal. And with that, I usually use my students to kind of like test the waters a little bit and kind of figure out the spiritual well-being of the campus. I mean, if you want to know what's going on your campus, talk to your student. They'll let you know exactly what's going on. They know everything that's going on as far as what the latest gossip or what's trending on your campus and stuff like that, what apps are out and all of that. Communicate with your students about stuff like that, and I think you'll have a lot of success in that area. And so I hope I answered your question. But yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good, Anthony. And I want to kind of segue into, with you getting students involved, you've got to be presenting the vision of reaching the school, you know, helping out in campus clubs and all that kind of stuff. So how much do you talk about reaching schools and serving schools in your Wednesday night service and yet also in your Sunday morning adult service? Does your pastor give you time? What is kind of your communication to recruit and cast vision for campus ministry?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So as far as my Wednesday nights are concerned, I have kind of different levels of students, and I'm sure most student ministries do. I'm sure you guys do as well. For us, so on Wednesday nights, which is our base level, it's just simply students. So it's a service. It's our Wednesday night summit student service. On that time, pretty much, I would say at least every other week, I communicate in some way how the students on their campus won't come to know Christ unless they do something about it. And I think that has to be a part of our communication as youth pastors, so much so that it's kind of falling out of their ears. They know it, they hear it all the time. And even when it gets to the point where they can recite it themselves or whatever, whenever you just have to communicate that all the time, that hey, your friends will not know Jesus unless you do something about it, whether it's handing them an invite, whether it's saying, hey, whether it's grabbing them and bringing them and putting them in the car with you and going to church service, whether it's talking to them about Jesus themselves right there on their campus, whatever that may be, man, their students, their friends don't get to know Jesus unless they're willing to take those steps, unless they're willing to do something to get them there. And so we communicate that pretty much regularly. And even if I'm just talking about, I could be talking about just, reading the Bible. I could be talking about something completely different, water baptism, whatever it may be, whatever simple topic I may be talking about, or whether I can always bring it back to the fact that, man, knowing Jesus is a big deal. Knowing Jesus is what's most important. And your friends, your campus will not be changed unless you do something about it. And I communicate that on the simple, just like the base level, but also in our student leaders, I communicate that even more whenever we meet and we talk. I'm like, hey, guys, you got to understand that you as leaders, you got to lead the way. You got to pioneer this, and you got to get on your campus. If you as high schoolers and junior hires who are leaders, who have gone through this program, who have been here, who have longevity, who know what's going on, who know Christ, who serve God, if you aren't leading the way, then how do you expect those here a part of this ministry who aren't as passionate as you are to get on campus themselves? You've got to lead the way. You've got to set the tone for this movement on your school campus.
Okay.
And as far as like on Sunday mornings, I don't know how many of you guys who are listening, who are hearing this, actually have this as a option, but luckily for me, I serve under a pastor who did youth ministry for a long time and has a huge heart for students. And so he has been training me and equipping me and developing me as a student pastor. And on top of that, he has been resourcing me. And then what makes it really cool is on Sunday mornings, man, it's not like pulling teeth for me to get my youth pastor to talk about student ministry. That's not what it's like for me. And I know that I'm probably the exception to that rule, And so a lot of times I understand that there may be youth pastors who have to like fight for some time to just talk to the church, talk to the congregation about what's going on in the student ministries. But luckily for me, almost every single week, my pastor is bragging on students who are doing amazing things on their campuses. He's bragging about the campus club. He's bragging about 7 projects. He's talking about the amazing things that are happening in our student ministry. Why? Because he believes in it and he sees the fruit from it. And man, it has just been awesome getting to serve under a pastor like this. And so if you do have a pastor who is kind of a little bit more hesitant to do stuff like that, I honestly don't have a lot of advice in that. This is the only pastor that I've ever had. And so I'm very blessed and very grateful for the opportunity I've been given in this. But I encourage you to find someone who's gone through what you're going through and get some advice and hear how to navigate those waters specifically with your pastor and how to communicate the importance and the need for church involvement in campus ministry. And so just do what you can to make that happen. And I think, man, that's going to be a huge catalyst for you, because we wouldn't be where we are and would be able to do what we do if it wasn't for the adults in our services helping us out with it.
Yeah, that's good, Anthony. Just 2 quick questions for you, and honestly, quick answers, like 30 seconds, 45 seconds on each. Okay. You're a busy man. You're a youth pastor. You probably don't do a lot of just youth ministry. You do a lot of other things as well. How do you find time, carve it out of your weekly schedule to reach your campus?
Okay, so for me, and I know for a lot of pastors, there are a couple things that they know have to be on their schedule. It's Sunday mornings, and for me, it's Wednesday nights. Those are non-negotiable. You have to be there. You can't, as a youth pastor, it's what you have to do. I think a lot of times what the problem is that as youth pastors, campus clubs isn't one of those things, or campus ministry isn't one of those things. And so what I've done is I've made Thursdays kind of that day for me. Thursday mornings and Thursday afternoons are my campus days. I know that I'm going to be on campus on Thursdays every single week. And it's just a part of what I do now. It's not a matter of, is it, oh, I think I'm going to be. No, it's a part of my schedule. The same way I have to be there on Sunday mornings and I have to be there on Wednesday nights, I got to be on campus on Thursdays, and it's just a part of what I do. And that's aside from football, volleyball, basketball, soccer, baseball, all of that other stuff as well. And so just make it a part of your routine schedule, and I think that'll be a huge catalyst for you. Just simply ingrain it into your schedule and make that happen.
It's good. I like that. Last question for you, Anthony, and then we're going to kind of close up here. What is your biggest regret? You've been in ministry now 3 or 4 years, full-time youth pastor. What's your biggest regret? If you could go back 4 years, what would you do different?
Honestly, this kind of flows into what you and Ben had talked about. My biggest regret would probably be, in all honesty, would have to be simply not having a bunch of guys around me helping me do this. Not communicating with the youth pastors in the area, not communicating with the local churches and having these guys, kind of building that network. I did not network at all when I first became a youth pastor. In all honesty, I felt like I was kind of in over my head to begin with, but I would say that's one thing I regret. I would network a whole lot better, and I still am not very good at it. I'm not great at networking as a whole, and I'm working on it. I've been communicating with some friends of mine who I know in San Antonio and in Oklahoma and a couple in the greater DFW area, but man, I am not the best when it comes to networking, and I would say that is my biggest weakness because Pastor Ben and Pastor Kyle are right. Networking is a big deal, and man, I can't tell you, every single time I talk to another youth pastor, I learn stuff, and it is awesome getting to hear from them, hear their successes, and hear what they're failing at, and getting to take some notes and figure out how we can do this thing better. So I would say networking is probably my biggest weaknesses and one of my biggest regrets. And so definitely, if you aren't doing that now, I want to encourage you to go after that and to seek finding a community of pastors to help you out in this.
Sounds good. Hey, Anthony, thanks for your time. Appreciate your expertise and all your wisdom and what's going on. I want to do Tyler Harris, you're a youth pastor at Mesquite First there in Mesquite, Texas. And I want to do just some quick hits, man, just 3 or 4 more minutes, and then we're going to shut the live stream down. But I just want to ask some questions and get you guys, one of you pop up, and just give a quick answer. We don't need long answers, quick answers. So here we go. First one, with the holidays approaching, what are some key ideas or some things that you've heard of churches doing to connect with the school? Tyler or Anthony, go.
One thing that we do every single year is that we partner with the schools who we know have a lower income, Title I schools and stuff like that, who have families who can't provide their own dinners for Thanksgiving, and we come alongside them. We say, hey, how many people do you think you need Thanksgiving dinners for? We get a number from them, and then we use our church comes together, we rally together, pay for that, and we provide X amount of Thanksgiving meals for these families. We deliver them to the schools. Parents and families come to the schools, sign up, they get them, they grab them, and they go home, and they can have a full-on, like, hardcore Thanksgiving dinner because of the generosity of our church. And man, that has been a huge, huge catalyst, not only just in our junior highs, but man, also even in our elementary schools as well. So that's a great idea that I've seen happen here at Eagle Point.
That's good. Tyler, what about you, man?
Yeah, definitely that. I mean, donating even just turkeys to families is definitely something huge, because turkeys can get pretty expensive up there. But if a church family can rally around a school and just be like, hey, we just want to give you this and help support, that's awesome. As we're getting close to Christmas, especially too, there's always those those angel trees, right? Where I know that my program that my wife is working for, they have decided to literally come next to an elementary school and just say, hey, we want to buy some Christmas presents for your students. And so they have found a church that is going to do that. That ministry is actually acting as a middle person And so they're just buying Christmas presents for the students, a church that really has no actual connection with that school. It's one of the coolest things to see, but through it, you have these kids that are getting presents at school that's from a church that these students have been prayed over and all of these things. So that's definitely a powerful way. And then of course, there's always the over Christmas, New Year's break lock-in, right? I mean, every youth ministry wants to do a lock-in.
Yeah, we love those.
So that's what I got for you.
That's good. Hey, last question, and then we're going to stop the broadcast here. What would you tell guys out there that maybe get told no? Like they go to the school and the principal, the counselors, teachers, they say no. Where do we go from there?
I would say, for one, hit the pavement in prayer. That's a big thing. That's a key thing is, man, pray around it. Straight up, go Old Testament and circle that bad boy 7 times and blow in some trumpets, man. Do the whip and nay all around the school, whatever you got to do, man. But just pray around it and just simply bathe that place in prayer. Also, based on my experience here in Denton, I would say the schools that say they're closed, they're not really closed. I mean, they're maybe close to you coming in with the title pastor, but if you can always come in a different way, whether that is as a volunteer, as a mentor, as cafeteria worker, as cleanup crew, as a bus driver, as a substitute teacher. And so, in all honesty, I think it's very difficult to say that schools can be closed because you can come in as a different way. Take your pastor hat off for a minute and find a new way to get in school and get on campus and impact that campus in some way. And so that's where I would go as far as when a school tells you no.
That's good. Tyler, what about you?
I was in Roswell for a year and a half, and it wasn't just our high schools that were closed. The entire district was closed, and it was actually because of something that a church had done at one of the high schools. And so district-wide, it was closed. So I come in, and my pastor's telling me, hey, I know you're going to try to do what you can to be on campus, but I don't expect you to because our superintendent will not allow it. And so from there, I did what Anthony said, and we would just after school hours walk the campuses and just pray over them and be about them as much as possible. So what we ended up having to do was obviously try to just build some kind of connection with some of the teachers there and love on them. But we also started doing a bus route to and from the schools as well, and we looked at offering tutoring programs and all kinds of stuff just to come in and say, hey, look, we don't want to do anything. We don't need anything. We just want to support you. We just want to serve as much as possible. And so what was a very volatile situation when it came to actually district-wide slowly started to pull back. Not that we honestly, we never were able to get back on campus, but that we were able to say, hey, the church is something that we just want to help the school district. We just want to help schools and love on some students. And so that had to be the route that we took, or otherwise they weren't letting us in. So
I like it, Tyler. Hey guys, just want to thank both of you, Tyler, for all your work helping us present this today on Google Hangouts and YouTube, and Anthony for your time. I just want to close with a couple of thoughts. Number one, man, every single one of you, you can do it. You can go make a difference, serve your campus, build those relationships, network. It's been done. It's not something new. It's been done for decades and generations, and schools and churches partnering together. And so, man, we're behind you with Youth Alive. We want to help you. If you have questions, man, contact our office. We want to come beside you, stand with you, and make that happen. I also want to tell you about something coming up in 2016. We are working, many of you have been to Together Training, and we're working to put Together Training into like a box, into a resource page, to where all of those resources are going to be available for you, to where you can do your own training, teaching students how to do campus clubs, teaching students how to share their faith. All those things will be available for you to use as a church, or you could network with other churches in your city and do a one-day training, or you're going to be able to take those pieces and use it like in small groups, Sunday school classes if you still have them, in different ways like that. So basically all of these trainings we've done over the years, we're going to put that in a box, in a resource package to get to you. So that will be coming out in 2016, and we're super, super excited about it. So listen, we want you to go win your campus, and we look forward to hearing from you. We're going to close the broadcast right now.